At first, Jian Wushuang felt it was odd that he was able to completely absorb 37 purple heaven thunderbolts, but he quickly realized why. Purple heaven thunderbolts were used for building up and strengthening the body. However, Jian Wushuang cultivated the heavenly creation skill and was already a venerable master. Right now, the biggest difference between Jian Wushuang and normal warriors was his body. This wasn't in reference to his physical strength. Instead, it was his body's foundation. After he broke through to the level of venerable master, his body continued to strengthen, gaining unlimited possibilities. How much a body could be strengthened and how many purple heaven thunderbolts it could absorb depended on the body's foundation and the warrior's endurance. Obviously, Jian Wushuang was able to bear much more than those lords. Even the Black Yuan Lord could only endure 15 purple heaven thunderbolts, but Jian Wushuang was able to absorb 37 of them. Now, my body is... Jian Wushuang couldn't help inspecting his body. He could only vaguely sense its strength at the moment. Previously, my body was only on par with a medium third-grade magic weapon. However, after absorbing so many purple heaven thunderbolts, it seems to have reached a new level. But now, it should be good enough to match up against superior second-grade magic weapons, shouldn't it? Jian Wushuang thought secretly. Superior second-grade magic weapons only ranked second to first-grade magic weapons. This is the current strength of Jian Wushuang's body. Such a strong body was already incredible among many lords, not to mention those in the Saint Realm. With this body, which was comparable to superior second-grade magic weapons, if Jian Wushuang stood there and let a Stage 2 warrior, or even an ordinary Stage 3 expert, attack him, they wouldn't be able to hurt him at all. If they wanted to harm him, the opponents need to be in the upper level of Stage 3 or even possess a heaven-defying level of strength. But even then, they would only be able to hurt him. As far as killing him, though, ordinary lords wouldn't be able to do that. Since my body was strengthened so much, what about my power? Jian Wushuang was filled with expectations as he clenched his right fist and launched a punch toward the area directly in front of him. Bang! A powerful wind-breaking sound filled the area. This punch, which flew through the air, created a thunderous sound that caused the whole area to tremble. This power! Jian Wushuang was shocked. 8 times! The power of that attack was 8 times stronger than before. Jian Wushuang was very happy and surprised. With the increase of his physical strength, his power had skyrocketed. The strength of his body has risen from a medium third-grade magic weapon to a superior second-grade magic weapon. It was strengthened so much in such a short time, it was no wonder his power had also been enhanced to 8 times that of his previous ability. His overall ability surged to a new level once again. Now, if he met Deng Hor again, he would be able to kill him without using the blood puppet. Unfortunately, I am only in the Saint Realm. If I could break through and become a lord, I would definitely be able to absorb a lot more of the purple heaven thunderbolts inside the universal thunderbolt pool. Jian Wushuang sighed. Anyway, I should be satisfied with this. Jian Wushuang was delighted. He turned around and left the universal thunderbolt pool without any hesitation. Outside the hall, and Feng had been waiting there for a few days now. When he noticed Jian Wushuang exiting the hall, he rushed to welcome him as quickly as possible. However, upon seeing Jian Wushuang again, and Feng was surprised. He noticed that Jian Wushuang was obviously different from several days ago. Even though his aura was still the same as before, he could tell that Jian Wushuang was much stronger. Previously, he felt slightly stressed when facing Jian Wushuang, but that was because of Jian Wushuang's amazing battle results. Now, when Jian Wushuang was standing in front of him, he could feel a harsh oppression. It seemed that he could easily be killed by Jian Wushuang. Congratulations, Lord Swordsman. And Feng immediately realized that Jian Wushuang had improved immensely inside the Universal Thunderbolt pool. Jian Wushuang smiled at him and said, "And Feng, take me to the place with the third opportunity." Jian Wushuang was filled with anticipation towards the third opportunity, which was also the last one in the Baymo Cave Mansion. After all, the first couple opportunities had already satisfied him a lot. He received a first-grade magic weapon, the Dragon King Bao, from the first opportunity, granting him another terrifying trump card. He completely absorbed 37 purple heaven thunderbolts in the second opportunity, tremendously strengthening his body, which improved his overall ability enormously. Both of these opportunities had already benefited him greatly, so what about the third one? And Feng and Jian Wushuang quickly arrived at an open space in the deepest part of the cave mansion. There, in the middle of the open space, stood a thatched cottage. A thatched cottage? Jian Wushuang was secretly surprised. Bayemo Marquis left a thatched cottage in his cave mansion. That was really unexpected. My lord, this thatched cottage is the third, the most precious, and most important opportunity. It has a name to go with it. We call it the Cottage World. And Feng said, Cottage World. Jian Wushuang was surprised. World origin? Yes. And Fen nodded and said, Bayemo Marquis had reached great heights in comprehension of world origin. Among these three opportunities, only the Cottage World is related to the world origin. I think the reason that you came to the cave mansion of Bayemo Marquis is to comprehend world origin as well, right? Yes. Jian Wushuang nodded. This is it. I don't think that the opportunity inside the Cottage World will disappoint you at all. But before you enter, I must inform you that you need to proceed with caution. Everyone only receives one chance to enter the Cottage World. It's very rare, so you have to take advantage of this opportunity. And Feng said, My lord, upon entering the thatched cottage, you will see a futon. Once you sit on it, you will understand what's special about the Cottage World. However, you will also quickly fall into a gentle slumber afterward. Slumber. Jian Wushuang looked at him with a curious expression. Don't worry, this slumber is definitely something good. You can take it as a form of enlightenment, and the longer you spend slumbering, the more beneficial it will be for you. However, the instant you wake up, the opportunity will end. And Feng said, That's it. Jian Wushuang didn't know how to react. You have to go into Cottage World and experience it yourself to truly understand. And Feng said with a big smile. Jian Wushuang nodded gently. Then he slowly walked toward the thatched cottage. Once he reached the front door, Jian Wushuang took a deep breath, opened the door, and entered the thatched cottage. The inside of the thatched cottage only contained a few simple objects. There was a futon on the ground, a wooden table beside the wall, an oil lamp on the table, and a picture on the wall. The futon, wooden table, oil lamp, and picture were all the objects in the thatched cottage. After entering the thatched cottage, what Jian Wushuang saw first was a picture on the wall, on which there was a towering mountain. This picture, Jian Wushuang frowned slightly. The picture was not very abstruse. Instead, it was too ordinary for Jian Wushuang. Indeed, it was an ordinary picture without any mysteries. The drawing technique was also very clumsy and ordinary. In addition, the futon, wooden table, and oil lamp were also very ordinary. There was nothing extraordinary. But Jian Wushuang was clearly aware that since those things were here, it meant they were not normal. Jian Wushuang walked towards the yellowed futon while taking some time to think. Then he sat down on it. As soon as he sat down, Jian Wushuang felt like the thatched cottage had utterly changed. This? A hint of shock flashed in Jian Wushuang's eyes. In his consciousness, the futon, which had been ordinary just now, was connected to the wooden table, oil lamp, and picture. The four simple objects seemed to have become an entire world in an instant. An entire world. Gosh! With a shocked face, Jian Wushuang sat upright on the futon. He was able to sense the structure of the invisible world even more clearly now. He was also able to clearly sense the vast world origin that pervaded the world. World. This is the world? Where there is life, there is death. Where there is destruction, there is creation. Embracing everything. Immediately, Jian Wushuang was lost in the world formed by the futon, wooden table, oil lamp, and picture. His heart completely calmed down, and his consciousness gradually became faint. After a little time passed, he fell asleep. Slumbering. Anyone who meditated in the cottage world would fall into slumber, and Jian Wushuang now was slumbering too. This status was actually a big opportunity, equivalent to enlightenment. The longer one stayed in this state, the more beneficial it would be. In his complete slumber, Jian Wushuang had totally ignored the passage of time. Outside the cottage world, and Feng knew Jian Wushuang would be staying in there for a long time, so he left early. The cave mansion of Marquis Baima had also become quiet again. Outside the cave mansion, on the flaming battlefield that covered 8 million square miles, the battles were continuing. The experts from the two major camps were still fighting for their respective interests and battle achievements. By slaughtering Deng Hua, Jian Wushuang had indeed won himself a lofty reputation in the flaming battlefield. Many people were in awe of him, and everyone on the flaming battlefield was talking about his feat. For now. However, as time passed, new events occurred and new experts emerged, replacing the topics regarding Jian Wushuang. That was just how the flaming battlefield was, where experts constantly emerged and fell like stars. As for Jian Wushuang, he knew nothing about this because he was in a state of slumber for 1 month, 2 months, 1 year, and then 2 years. Before he knew it, Jian Wang had been in a state of slumber for 2 years and 4 months. The inner area of the flaming battlefield. A towering khaki stone fort was standing at the top of the mountain. This khaki stone fort was the residence of the famous Heaven Stone Castle Lord. In the hall of the stone fort, before each table, there were some people sitting. Other than the Heaven Stone Castle Lord, there were 3 more people. Heaven Stone Castle Lord, you hurriedly sent for me. What's up? An indifferent man in a short robe asked. This indifferent man, as well as the other 2 people, were all top experts at the flaming battlefield, each of whom was in the overlord rank and not much weaker than Heavenstone Castle Lord. In Marquis Piaoshua's camp, if one could kill any one of these people, he would get a special reward. Please don't worry. All your questions will be answered shortly. All in all, it is a very rare opportunity for you all. Heavenstone Castle Lord smiled in a mysterious way. The 3 people, including the indifferent man, who were invited by Heavenstone Castle Lord, slightly frowned. Just an instant later, another person turned up in the hall. Once he appeared, everyone, including Heavenstone Castle Lord, stood up. Master Long Xiang, Heavenstone Castle Lord said modestly. Master Long Xiang. The 3 invited people, including the indifferent man, were all respectful. Long Xiang was from Marquis Tsongyue's camp, and he was one of their 2 heaven-defying experts. Originally, there had been 3 heaven-defying experts in Marquis Tsongyue's camp. However, Deng Hua was slaughtered, so there were only 2 left. Heavenstone Castle Lord, as well as the 3 people, were all called overlords at the flaming battlefield, but they still had to be respectful in front of a heaven-defying expert. Tian Shi, you know my temperament. If you don't have something that interests me, I'm afraid you won't like the consequences. Long Xiang shot a glance at Heavenstone Castle Lord with cold eyes. Master Long Xiang, you and the other 3 can rest assured. Heavenstone Castle Lord smiled and said, since I have invited you here, there is definitely something very special. It's useless to talk here. Please follow me and you'll understand. I'm sure you'll be satisfied. Hearing this, Long Xiang nodded slightly. Heavenstone Castle Lord immediately led Long Xiang and the others towards the deepest section of the inner area. After traveling for half a day, they finally arrived at a rift. This rift was surrounded by mountains in all directions, located in a barren area with only a few trees. Tian Shi, why do you take us here? Long Xiang shot a glance at the rift below. The inner area was very vast, and there were numerous similar rifts like the one below, which had no extraordinary features. Heavenstone Castle Lord smiled in a mysterious way and gave no answer. Then, he directly jumped towards the bottom of the rift, where he proceeded to pat some of the stone walls, leaving behind several handprints. At this moment, an impressive secret entry appeared on one stone wall. That entry was not horizontal but vertical, reaching down to the bottom of the rift. However, it was too deep to see clearly. The only thing visible was the total darkness. What's this? When Long Xiang and others saw the entry suddenly appear, their expressions became weird. This entry, is it? Long Xiang's pupils suddenly shrank. Master Long Xiang, you're right. This is the entry to a cave mansion, Heavenstone Castle Lord said and grinned. Hearing this, Long Xiang and the other 3 people were astonished. A cave mansion? An undiscovered cave mansion? And here in the inner area? A cave mansion in the inner area? Though most of the 330 cave mansions on the flaming battlefield had come to light or been found, some of them were still hidden. Normally, a newly found cave mansion would not have surprised Xiang and the others that much. What was beyond their belief was that the mansion was in the inner area. After all, nearly all the mansions under the two camps' control were found in the outer area or even at the edge of the battlefield. No one had thought that someone would leave their mansion in the inner area, where the final battle between the Marquises, the 322 experts in the Cloud Realm, and the great demon Dijing had taken place. Therefore, the mansion before their eyes was the first one that had been found in the inner area. "Tianshi, are you sure there is a mansion here?" Xiang finally asked. "I'm sure." Heavenstone Castle Lord nodded seriously. "It was by coincidence that I found this mansion, and I checked inside it immediately, but I was not able to find out who the owner was because I was kicked out by the guards." "The guards?" Xiang was confused. "Yes, the guards, they are puppet fighters and very powerful ones at that. I can't break in on my own, so I asked you all for help," Heavenstone Castle Lord explained. The Lord's words caused the eyes of Xiang and the indifferent man to light up. For them, an unexplored mansion was a great treasure that they would definitely be drawn to. "Let's go down now," Xiang suggested. The 5 people immediately landed at the bottom of the rift. Then they passed through the entrance on the wall and started their adventure. A half-day later, a booming sound echoed through the rift as fierce battle took place. Swish! Swish! 2 figures flashed out from the entrance. They 2 figured were Xiang and Heavenstone Castle Lord. They found a foothold in the air above the rift, both looking like they had been roughed up. Especially Heavenstone Castle Lord. He had a pale expression, a trace of blood on the corner of his mouth, and his aura was slowly dying out. Their eyes were filled with horror as they stared blankly at the black entrance. Those puppet fighters were so terrifying. Horrible. Leng Rong and the other 2 were overlords on the flaming battlefield. They might even have been strong enough to battle against a lord. Nonetheless, they were killed by the puppets before they could even put up a struggle. Those puppets are stronger than lords. 5 people entered the mansion together, but only Xiang and Heavenstone Castle Lord managed to escape. "This cave mansion is unusual." Xiang had a grave expression as he said, "We had to run away even though we were only in the outer layer. This mansion is indeed dangerous, even more so than the 2 mansions that I have previously explored. However, more danger means more treasures and a more powerful owner. I reckon this mansion belonged to a lord as powerful as Josha Lord and Black Yuan Lord. It may even belong to a marquis." A marquis? Heavenstone Castle Lord was shocked by this assumption. After all, lords would never be interested in an ordinary lord's mansion, and only experts in the Saint Realm would care about that. If the assumption was true, the mansion would definitely attract lots of experts and lords. Among the 8 marquis mansions, only 2 had not been found so far. In the past 1,000 years, every new marquis mansion that was found brought about a bloody war between the super experts because everyone knew that marquises possessed incredible techniques, so their mansions had to be invaluable. As proof, even though it had been found long ago, Marquis Beima's mansion still had 30% of its value when Jian Wushuang went there, and his adventure was very rewarding. Therefore, there had to be many more opportunities in a newly found Marquis mansion, since it had not been explored yet. "The opportunities in this mansion don't belong to us," Xiang said while gasping. Heavenstone Castle Lord nodded in recognition of his words. Both of them were clear about the fact that they were a bit stronger than ordinary lords and would not lose their lives inside, but it was still impossible for them to seize any of the opportunities. The shadow of being chased by a terrifying puppet fighter and being so near to death's door was still hunting them. "Let's send the news back first," said Xiang helplessly. Right then, they heard a voice that said, "What are you doing here, Heavenstone Castle Lord and Xiang?" Along with the voice, a handsome youth with black hair approached them, carrying a long spear on his back. "Oh no!" After they saw the man, the expressions of Xiang and Heavenstone Castle Lord both became dark. They knew they could not hide the news anymore. The youth neared the rift and saw the entrance on the wall. The previous explosion had enlarged the entrance, and the aftermath attracted the youth's attention. Is this a mansion? The youth widened his eyes. A mansion in the inner area? Damn! Both Long Xiang's and Heavenstone Castle Lord's faces fell. The youth had discovered it. Inside Marquis Beima's cave mansion, Jian Wushuang finally woke up from cottage world. The moment he opened his eyes, the world connected by the futon, wooden table, lamp, and painting immediately disappeared in front of him. The four objects returned to being ordinary. Amazing! Jian Wushuang called out. Marquis Beima lived up to his fame as a top marquis. He must have reached great heights in world origin to create such a wonderful cottage world. How long have I been asleep? Jian Wushuang was curious. Because of the long slumber, he had lost track of time. Suddenly, he looked down at his right arm, where the power of world origin was gathering. Am I about to condense another origin mark? He smiled. It was a fantastic slumber. He had been immersed in meditating on the world origin in such an efficient manner, and the outcome was satisfying. A short while later, a new world origin mark emerged on his right arm. Similar to Slaughter origin mark, it was shaped like flame, but this mark was purple. However, the power of the world origin was not disappearing. Instead, it started to condense a second mark, then a third mark. In the blink of an eye, 2 more marks appeared on Jian Wushuang's right arm. 3 origin marks was the symbol of an expert in stage 3, and even those who were at the heaven-defying level could not form more than 3 marks. For a long time, Jian Wushuang had been weak in comprehension of the origin. After all, he had not been cultivating for very long. But now he was finally catching up. After the third mark was condensed, the power still remained and continued working until a fourth mark was completely condensed. 4 origin marks. A spark flashed through Jian Wushuang's eyes. Before, he had only possessed 1 Slaughter origin mark, but now, after meditating in the cottage world, he had 4 world origin marks as well. That was to say, he had surpassed many experts at stage 3 and even the heaven-defying level. With the power behind every mark, he was now several times stronger than before. He was above heaven-defying level, which he had reached while only relying on 1 mark, a strong body, and techniques like the heavenly creation skill, road to the underworld, and so on. An ordinary warrior has to condense 3 origin marks and awaken his soul to reach the heaven-defying level. For me, condensing 4 origin marks by itself should be enough. Jian Wushuang pondered. Of course, he didn't forget that he also had a Slaughter origin mark, but the power from different origins could not be combined, so he could only apply 4 marks at most. Nonetheless, it did not change the fact that he had reached the heaven-defying level. Maybe he was even far above that level. With the advantages of the heavenly creation skill and having strengthened his body in Universal Thunderbolt Pool, he was a dozen times more powerful than an ordinary expert. He might even be on a par with a lord. Not only that, his double first-grade sword soul and trump cards provided him with even more support. As of now, killing an expert like Deng Hua would be a piece of cake for him. It is said that no matter how powerful an expert in the Saint Realm is, he has no chance of defeating a lord because there is an unbridgeable gap that separates them. However, I feel like my current strength is enough to destroy that belief. Jian Wushuang was filled with confidence. And, as he clenched his fists, his eyes seemed to sparkle. He simply believed in himself despite the fact that he had not battled with a lord yet. After standing up, he could feel an outpouring energy exploding in his body. It seems that I've been inside for quite a while. Jian Wushuang walked out of the cottage world with a smile. Sir, you finally came out. And Feng came up to Jian Wushuang just as he walked out. How long have I been in the cottage world? Jian Wushuang asked. 2 years and 4 months, replied Infeng. So long. Jian Wushuang was amazed. The amount of time that passed was much longer than he had thought. Shouldn't staying longer be better? Infeng couldn't help grinning. Jian Wushuang was speechless. He handed Infeng an interspatial ring and said, There are some raw gems in this ring. Please take it as my reward to you for guiding me while I was here. Infeng accepted the ring, and his eyes lit up after he used his consciousness to inspect the contents. Thank you. Sir, why don't you stay inside a little longer? The mansion is so large, there must be some undiscovered treasures lying around. With a bit of luck, you'll be able to gain even more. And Feng added, I'm afraid I can't. Jian Wushuang shook his head and continued, I've already benefited greatly from these 3 opportunities, so I'm satisfied. He had other things to do, so he left the mansion that same day. In Marquis Piaoshua's camp, a burly man with a purple saber on his back was noisily drinking by himself. Lei Dao, why are you drowning your sorrows in wine? The man heard the voice and turned around only to see Jian Wushuang walking towards him. He beamed and said, Wow! Swordsman. Jian Wushuang smiled at the man as well and continued walking towards him. Lei Dao, it's been a while since I last saw you. In fact, it had been 3 years since they had last seen each other. They had come to Flaming Battlefield as part of a group. But 3 years ago, Jian Wushuang had left to go to the inner area while Lei Dao and Shi Ling had stayed in the outer area. Where are Shi Ling and the others? Jian Wushuang asked. Lei Dao's eyes became dark when he heard that name. He died 1 year ago, so did Yan Mo Bingyu and I were the only 2 survivors. She went back to our territory with Sir Axe that same year. Alas! Jian Wushuang shook his head, looking sad. The flaming battlefield was full of danger and everyone could lose their life at any time. They knew it very well before they stepped onto the field. We're no match for you, swordsman. Lei Dao suddenly looked back at Jian Wushuang. You managed to kill Deng Hua, an expert at heaven-defying level. That's good for you. Lei Dao admired Jian Wushuang from the bottom of his heart. 2 years ago, the news that Jian Wushuang killed Deng Hua had really astonished him and the others. Now, 2 years have passed, and you must have progressed even more than before, Lei Dao added. Just so, Jian Wushuang said humbly. Right then, 2 figures appeared in the void above the camp, radiating a powerful aura that chilled the experts below. Lords! Jian Wushuang spotted the figures. However, after a short stay, the 2 figures headed towards the flaming battlefield. Why are they going to the flaming battlefield? Jian Wushuang looked curious because all the experts on the battlefield knew that lords only participated in battle on special occasions. Just 2 more people who want to try their luck in the Marquis Mansion, answered Lei Dao. A Marquis Mansion? What do you mean? Jian Wushuang questioned further. You don't know? Lei Dao shot Jian Wushuang an odd look. I've been cultivating inside a mansion for the last 2 years, so I do not know anything that has happened. I see. After a nod, Lei Dao continued, Several days ago, a new cave mansion was found in the inner area. Inner area? Jian Wushuang narrowed his eyes. As far as he knew, almost all the mansions on the flaming battlefield had been found in the outer area or on the edge of it. None had been found in the inner area yet. When this mansion was found, the unusual news immediately attracted the 2 camps' attention. They sent some experts there to look around and it was quickly confirmed as a Marquis Mansion. We haven't figured out the Marquis identity, but whoever he was, the mansion must be invaluable, let alone that it's a newly found one. Now, nearly all the experts of the 2 camps have been driven crazy by the news and are hurrying there. I reckon there is already a large gathering of experts in the mansion. After all, there are over 50 lords from our camp among them, including Iron Saber Lord. Iron Saber Lord went there as well? Jian Wushuang was a little surprised, but it didn't take long for him to understand that the mansion deserved this level of attention. In this case, there must be over 100 lords inside the mansion. It really is a feast for experts. Jian Wushuang clenched his fists while feeling thrilled. He was about to witness a gather of hundreds of lords, something that only happened once in a blue moon. Swordsman, you're powerful enough to try your luck in the outer layer of the mansion. I heard some experts in Stage 3 have gone there and gained some opportunities and treasures, said Lei Dao. His words aroused Jian Wushuang's interest. He is right. This mansion has just been discovered, and as the first mansion found in inner area, it must be special. It should contain many opportunities and treasures inside. I can't miss this chance, Jian Wushuang thought to himself. Lei Dao, I have to go now. Jian Wushuang said goodbye to Lei Dao and went to the camp's treasure vault. Since he had made up his mind to adventure in the mansion, he had to be well prepared. He selected 2 things from the treasure vault. I want to exchange for the second manual of triple shift technique and 5 blood gems. However, I'm in a hurry to go to the inner area and can't wait for 3 days. So can you give them to me now? Jian Wushuang asked a gray-clothed elder. The elder raised his head and glanced at Jian Wushuang. Then he said, "Okay." Normally, one had to wait 3 days to get the treasures they wanted in the exchange. If Jian Wushuang had been an ordinary expert in their camp, instead of one of the top 4 geniuses at heaven-defying level, the elder would not have approved his request. Jian Wushuang paid for the items with his battle achievement. Currently, he had an abundance of battle achievements. He had gained 10,000 points at the Jiuxia Cave Mansion and a certain number for killing Deng Hua, an expert at the peak of Stage 3. Those battle achievements were more than enough for him to exchange for the second shift manual. So he spent the remaining achievements on blood gems. Although he still had some blood gems in his possession, after considering that he was going to a place full of lords and that he might need to use his blood puppet, more blood gems might be necessary. Having received what he wanted, Jian Wushuang headed towards the inner area. With the appearance of the Marquee Cave Mansion, the inner area had attracted everyone's attention. Even though I've been in the inner area for a long time now, I have only seen 2 experts. It seems almost all the Stage 3 experts have gone to the mansion. Setting out from the campsite, Jian Wushuang traveled at a fast speed towards the inner area. It wouldn't take him long to get to the Marquee Cave Mansion. Right at this moment, oh! Jian Wushuang paused, looking towards a figure that was walking a short distance away from him. It was a dark-skinned, bald man with a giant axe on his back. Not perceiving his token, Jian Wushuang knew that he was an expert from the opposite camp. Jian Wushuang was heading to the Marquee Cave Mansion, so it was better to ignore normal experts of the opposite camp. However, this man wasn't just any normal expert. It's him. Seeing his face, Jian Wushuang immediately thought of a name. What are the chances I would meet him here? Jian Wushuang grinned. Then he moved. In the grass, the bald man, Wu Ming, was walking forward slowly with a cold and indifferent look on his face. 3 days. I haven't seen an expert from the opposite camp for 3 days. Apparently, they have all gone to the Marquee Cave Mansion. Wu Ming's eyes were cold. Humph! Idiots! Opportunities are always accompanied by danger. More than 10 experts at the peak of Stage 3 have died since it was found, and so have several lords. If you're not as strong as experts like Bone King and Heavenstone Castle Lord, you will die even you are only exploring the outer layer. And those opportunities are worthless to you if you die. Wu Ming knew his strength well enough. He gave up after learning that it was a Marquee Cave Mansion. He knew it was nothing more than seeking death for him. Many experts had died in the cave mansion in just the last few days. It's better for me to stay in the inner area. Here, no one can kill me unless he's an expert at the heaven-defying level. Wu Ming was busy thinking when a sudden wind-breaking sound reverberated from nearby. Wu Ming raised his head and saw a flowing light rushing towards him. The light left a residual shadow in the air as it moved toward him in the blink of an eye. Wu Ming! While standing above an empty space in front of Wu Ming, Jian Wushuang shouted to him, "You're!" After gazing at him and seeing his face, Wu Ming only thought of one name. Terrible name for him. Swordsman. Wu Ming was astonished, but he quickly calmed down and greeted him humbly. "Nice to see you, Master Swordsman. What can I do for you?" Wu Ming knew that, with no lords present, Jian Wushuang was invincible in the entire flaming battlefield. If he behaved himself, such an expert would not attack him just for the battle achievements. Jian Wushuang watched his every tiny expression and smiled slightly. "Wu Ming, I heard that you have a ring which can display something similar to a realm technique." Wu Ming's heart tightened. He instantly remembered that Jian Wushuang also had a powerful realm technique. Is he after my ring? Wu Ming's heart fell as he looked at the scarlet ring on his finger. He had found it in a cave mansion by chance, and it had saved his life several times now. It was quite important to him. It was even the most important treasure he had. So it's the scarlet ring. Jian Wushuang looked at the scarlet ring on Wu Ming's finger. He had kept it in mind ever since he heard about it from Shuiyang. He had not been striving for it, but he had unexpectedly met Wu Ming here. Since he came across it, Jian Wushuang surely would not leave without it. I'm curious, which one is more powerful, yours or mine? Jian Wushuang asked and smiled. Hearing this, Wu Ming's eyes narrowed. Then, whoosh! Without any hesitation, Wu Ming turned and tried to flee. Run! Run! Wu Ming dared not fight with Jian Wushuang, and he was also unwilling to give him the scarlet ring. So his only remaining option was to flee. Seeing that, Jian Wushuang smiled. Then a vast blood river flowed out, completely covering Wu Ming and the space around him. A powerful force tried to put pressure on Wu Ming. Wu Ming had a sullen look on his face. Upon perceiving the blood river that was rushing towards him, he gritted his teeth. Then, an intangible bloody flame arose and a blood-fire domain swept out. Jian Wushuang's blood river tried to break the blood-fire domain, but it was only able to compress it into a small area. Road to the underworld can only contain it? Even though Jian Wushuang was surprised, he just smiled slightly and muttered, Interesting. Then a stream of soaring sword essence appeared, along with a vast sword realm. They turned into intangible waves and began to flow forward. Sword realm, hundredfold realm. Before getting into Bay Mo Marquis Cave Mansion, Jian Wushuang had only mastered the first level of the multifold realm, tenfold realm. However, he could now display the hundredfold realm. Road to the underworld and the hundredfold realm were being displayed simultaneously, immediately causing the blood-fire domains surrounding Wu Ming to break down. What? Wu Ming's face turned pale. He was confident in his scarlet ring. Even though he had heard that Jian Wushuang had a good realm technique, he didn't think that it was stronger than his scarlet ring. But it turned out, his scarlet ring was much weaker than Jian Wushuang's realm technique. Too much weaker. The blood-fire domain crumbled and Wu Ming felt like he was carrying a mountain on his back, moving as slowly as a snail. Jian Wushuang shuttled through the air, straight towards Wu Ming. He quickly appeared in front of Wu Ming and launched a punch. Wu Ming raised his giant axe and crazily fended against it. Boom! The heavy hit knocked Wu Ming's giant axe away and Jian Wushuang's fist continued on its path towards Wu Ming's head. Wu Ming's head was smashed, instantly bringing about his death. After killing Wu Ming, Jian Wushuang took both his interspatial ring and scarlet ring. While holding the scarlet ring, Jian Wushuang used a drop of his blood to bind it. The next moment, he felt a rush of information surge into his mind. Oh! Jian Wushuang raised his eyebrows. Now he understood why the scarlet ring was able to display a realm technique. The scarlet ring, called the Bloodfire Ring, was not a magic weapon because both the material and refining method used to create it were common. But it contained a formation. This formation allowed the Bloodfire Ring to simulate a realm. Unique, strong, nice. Jian Wushuang smiled slightly. With only a thought, the blood-fire domain swept out and began mixing with the boundless blood river, causing the power of the blood river to instantly skyrocket. Road to the underworld, hundredfold realm, and the blood-fire ring. With such a strong combination, I'm afraid that even lords will be suppressed by it. Jian Wushuang's eyes were full of excitement. His battle strength had improved once again. It was only due to luck that Jian Wushuang met Wu Ming on the way to the Marquis Cave Mansion and acquired the Bloodfire Ring. He continued on his way for another half-day before finally arriving at the entrance to the cave mansion. At a giant rift in the middle of a barren area, two mountains stood facing each other. On the mountains, there were two temporarily built camps stationed, in which many experts had gathered. Among the experts, the weakest was at Stage 3. Many were at the peak of Stage 3 and a few of them were even lords. Jian Wushuang's arrival at the Marquis Piaoxua campsite attracted a lot of attention. Is that Master Swordsman? It's him. He disappeared right after he killed Deng Hua 2 years ago. It seems like Swordsman has finally returned today. Inside a tent, Jian Wushuang greeted Spirit Lord, who was currently in charge this time. As one of the 4 lords in charge of the Marquis Piaoxua camp's business, Spirit Lord held a high status and many lords had to obey him. Swordsman, did you just return the Bay Mo Marquis Cave Mansion? Spirit Lord looked at Jian Wushuang. Yes. Jian Wushuang nodded. I expect you must have improved a lot since you remained there for over 2 years, Spirit Lord said in a teasing manner. Then he continued somewhat sternly, all right, no more nonsense. It's good that you were able to arrive here in time. I will tell you some of the details about this cave mansion. The cave mansion that lies beneath us is quite unusual. Regardless of the inner layer, which is the battlefield of lords, the outer layer is a vast and boundless maze that contains many opportunities. The experts of our camp and the Marquis Xianxia camp have both searched through many areas in the outer layer over these last few days. But we haven't explored it thoroughly. The two camps have fought many times over opportunities and treasures, but we have always been able to gain the upper hand. I believe your arrival will increase our advantage even more. Outer layer? Maze? Jian Wushuang frowned and asked, Spirit Lord, do you have a map of the cave mansion? Yes. Spirit Lord nodded and proceeded to say, every 2 hours we update the map according to the searches currently taking place. As of now, the map is still incomplete, but something is better than nothing. At this point, Spirit Lord gave Jian Wushuang a map. After taking a glance at it, Jian Wushuang understood the basic information. Both the inner layer and the outer layer are mazes, and it's such a big mansion. Jian Wushuang marveled at it. The experts of both camps had explored the cave mansion every day since it had been found, but they still hadn't completely explored it yet. Therefore, it's easy to imagine how large it must be. When are you going inside? Spirit Lord asked. Now, Jian Wushuang said. Be careful. There should be no danger for you as long as your luck isn't bad, said Spirit Lord. Jian Wushuang nodded while thinking of a plan. Jian Wushuang quickly arrived at the entrance of the cave mansion and directly entered without hesitation. Nobody knew that there was a magnificent hall at the bottom of the cave mansion, nor did they know about the humongous ancient stone pillar that stood at the center of the hall. A skinny elder sat cross-legged in the hall, so quietly that it seemed as if he was dead. As soon as Jian Wushuang entered the cave mansion, the skinny elder suddenly raised his head, revealing a pair of eyes that seemed to glow. This aura? Young Master, it's the young Master's aura. Who has come here? The skinny elder's roar echoed throughout the hall. After traveling along the path to the entrance, Jian Wushuang went inside the cave mansion at the bottom of the rift. He looked around and noticed that there were 5 channels in front of him. The cave mansion was a huge maze, and each channel led to a different place. The middle one leads to the inner layer. Jian Wushuang squinted and gazed at it. Spirit Lord had warned him to be careful in the outer layer, but Jian Wushuang's chosen destination wasn't the outer layer. There were many opportunities in the outer layer, but they were insignificant opportunities that were only attractive to those Stage 3 experts. The Lord's battlefield was in the inner layer. The opportunities and treasures in the inner layer were much rarer. The outer layer was not challenging for Jian Wushuang, so he was eager to go to the inner layer. Let's go. Jian Wushuang chose the middle channel without any hesitation. The map he received from Spirit Lord, though incomplete, clearly showed how to travel from the outer layer to the inner layer. Jian Wushuang just needed to follow the map. Entering the channel, Jian Wushuang found that there were some secret chambers on both sides. There were many secret chambers in the cave mansion, most of which were empty, but a few of them hid some opportunities and treasures. This was the goal of the experts from 2 camps who were exploring the outer layer. Passing by all these secret chambers, Jian Wushuang continued walking directly towards the inner layer. Right as he walked past the entrance to one of the channels. Boom! Boom! The sound of loud explosions reverberated through the cave mansion. Bang! A figure crashed into one of the stone walls of the cave mansion, heavily enough cause a disturbance, but not enough to break the wall. Shuiyang, are you okay? A blue-clothed lady arrived next to him. It's nothing serious. Shuiyang, a cold youth with sword-shaped eyebrows, raised his head. Shuiyang, Mengyu. 3 figures approached them. They were Longxiang, Heavenstone Castle Lord, and Fire Demon. Give me the interspatial ring you got in the secret chamber, or both of you will die. A stream of killing intent surged from Longxiang's eyes. Just now, he saw Shuiyang and Mengyu get an interspatial ring from a secret chamber. An interspatial ring. Over these last few days, they had been searching for treasures in the secret chambers. But each secret chamber had only possessed one treasure, only one item to split. None of them had found an interspatial ring. No one except Shuiyang and Mengyu, so it was naturally quite valuable. "Don't even think about it," Shuiyang said and snorted. "Very well, it seems you'd rather choose death." Long Xiang shouted, "Kill them!" Long Xiang, Heavenstone Castle Lord, and Fire Demon instantly attacked them at the same time. "Run!" Without hesitation, both Shuiyang and Mengyu ran towards a different channel. "You think you can run?" Long Xiang released a strong killing intent. As an expert at the heaven-defying level, he was much faster than Shuiyang and Mengyu. "Damn it!" As he watched Long Xiang slowly catching up, Shuiyang's face turned deathly pale. "He is faster than us, and once he catches us he will easily kill us." "Master Water Mirror is on the way," Mengyu said. "I'm afraid we'll be dead before he can get here," Shuiyang said through gritted teeth. Water Mirror, one of the heaven-defying level experts from the Marquis Piaoxua camp, was exploring the cave mansion as well. At the very beginning, when they met Long Xiang and were attacked, Shuiyang had sent Water Mirror a message using the messaging slip. But he was exploring another channel, so it would take some time for him to arrive. "What should we do? What can we do?" Shuiyang was anxious. "Do I have to give up on this interspatial ring?" He shook his head immediately. They had gone through a lot of trouble to get it. They were naturally very unwilling to give it up. Most importantly, they believed that even if they gave him the interspatial ring, Long Xiang would still kill them. As Long Xiang approached, both Shuiyang and Mengyu felt desperate. Suddenly, ahead of them, in the front channel, a figure appeared. It was a young man with a long sword on his back. It was Jian Wushuang. Oh? A man? Even though Jian Wushuang was walking towards the inner layer, he had yet to meet an expert from either camp. Up to this point, he had only met one of the cave mansion guards. That guard was a puppet fighter whose strength was at the peak of stage 3. As expected, Jian Wushuang had easily dealt with it. When Jian Wushuang saw Shuiyang and Mengyu, his expression became somewhat strange. "Shuiyang." Jian Wushuang was surprised. At this moment, Shuiyang also saw Jian Wushuang. "Swordsman?" Shuiyang was stunned, but he was also happy. How lucky was he to have come across Jian Wushuang while he was being chased by Long Xiang. "Swordsman, please help me," Shuiyang called out urgently. Jian Wushuang realized that Shuiyang was running for his life from 3 people, and they were 3 people he recognized. Heavenstone Castle Lord, Fire Demon, and an expert of the heaven-defying level, Long Xiang? Jian Wushuang smiled while thinking to himself, "That's why Shuiyang and Mengyu decided to flee." He moved towards them without hesitation. Long Xiang, who was chasing Shuiyang, instantly changed his expression the moment he recognized Jian Wushuang. "He is Swordsman." Swordsman? Both Heavenstone Castle Lord and Fire Demon were astonished. The reputation of a person is like the shadow of a tree. It had been more than 2 years ago that Jian Wushuang had killed Deng Hua, but it was still something of a hot topic. After all, he was the only person on the flaming battlefield to have killed a heaven-defying level expert while at a lower level. Even now, the results of that battle had a great impact on Jian Wushuang's reputation. When they saw Jian Wushuang approaching, Heavenstone Castle Lord and Fire Demon both stopped where they were, but Long Xiang continued moving forward. Swordsman might have mastered a powerful realm technique and own a strong puppet fighter, but his personal strength is somewhat lacking. Long Xiang didn't fear Jian Wushuang at all. The news about Jian Wushuang killing Deng Hua caused an uproar. He was also shocked when he first heard about it, but he quickly understood that Jian Wushuang had only been able to kill Deng Hua because of the blood puppet. As for his personal level of strength, he was only just barely at the heaven-defying level. That was why Long Xiang turned up his nose at Jian Wushuang. He wasn't afraid of facing Jian Wushuang. "Humph! I'm not as stupid as Deng Hua." Long Xiang glared at them with cold eyes as he rushed forward with his scarlet long spear in hand. He didn't hesitate in charging towards Shuiyang and Mengyu, not even when Jian Wushuang moved to block his path. "Go to hell!" At the same moment that Long Xiang shouted out, A tall spectral image instantly appeared behind him. A scarlet ripple spread out from the long spear and formed a vortex that seemed to swallow everything in the area as if it was a black hole. Suddenly, a bloody light shot forward. That light came from the scarlet long spear that was rushing towards Jian Wushuang's head with strong and cruel killing power. It was so terrifying that even Shuiyang and Mengyu, who stood behind Jian Wushuang, began shaking fearfully. "Swordsman, be careful!" Shuiyang couldn't help shouting out. "Oh!" Seeing the bloody light, Jian Wushuang's lips curled up, revealing a cold smile. The very next moment, he clenched his right hand and stepped forward while gathering a purple thunderbolt in his fist. As he released his strength, his fist shot out like a falling star. "Seeking death." Long Xiang sneered at him. Long Xiang had gone all out. But what about Jian Wushuang? They all knew that Jian Wushuang focused on sword principle and had awakened a double first-grade sword soul. However, Jian Wushuang hadn't even unsheathed his sword. Instead, he was trying to counter the spear with his fist. Was he trying to get himself killed? However, the second Jian Wushuang's fist collided with that scarlet long spear. What? Long Xiang was shocked. He felt an immense weight behind Jian Wushuang's fist that easily deflected his scarlet long spear in a head-on collision. But it wasn't even enough to make Jian Wushuang slow down. His fist continued moving forward and struck Long Xiang's head. Bang! Long Xiang's head instantly burst open like a watermelon. During this simple exchange, Long Xiang, an expert at the heaven-defying level who was stronger than Deng Hua, was instantly killed by Jian Wushuang. The other four people who had been watching, Shuiyang, Mengyu, Heavenstone Castle Lord, and Fire Demon, were speechless as they looked on in wide-eyed shock. Did he just kill an expert of the heaven-defying level in a single blow? And even worse than that, Jian Wushuang was an expert of sword principle, but he hadn't even used his sword or his sword soul phantom. What did this mean? It meant that Jian Wushuang had not even used his full strength. He had killed Long Xiang with nothing but brute force. "Run! Run!" Heavenstone Castle Lord shouted in panic. Then he turned around and fled. Fire Demon was also panic-stricken. He swallowed, glanced at Jian Wushuang, and then fled to another tunnel as well. However, Jian Wushuang didn't chase after them. Jian Wushuang waved his hand and took Long Xiang's interspatial ring. Then he turned and looked towards Shuiyang and Mengyu. "Shuiyang, I haven't seen you in a long time, but you have improved a lot," Jian Wushuang said and smiled. He noticed that Shuiyang had improved a lot since he last saw him 2 years ago. He was almost at the same level as Bone King and Heavenstone Castle Lord. His improvements were probably due to the 10,000 battle achievements he received from that task. After hearing Jian Wushuang's words, Shuiyang came to himself and took a deep breath and said, with a bitter smile, "Yes, but my improvement was much less than yours." Jian Wushuang looked at him with an odd smile. "By the way, why was Long Xiang, an expert at the heaven-defying level, trying to kill you? Did you find something special in the outer layer?" Jian Wushuang was curious. Mengyu hesitated, but Shuiyang instantly replied, "The two of us found an interspatial ring in one of the secret chambers, and Long Xiang found out." "Is that so?" Jian Wushuang nodded and said, "Well then, I'm going on ahead. You two take care." "Thank you for your help," Shuiyang said gratefully. "It was nothing." Jian Wushuang waved his hand and left, continuing on his way towards the inner layer. It didn't take long for him to disappear from their sight. "Shuiyang, it seems you have a good relationship with swordsmen." Mengyu looked at Shuiyang. 2 years ago, we attacked the Juxia Cave Mansion together. At that time, he killed Deng Hua. Shuiyang continued, "It's only been 2 years since then. I didn't expect his strength to improve so much after that battle." Mengyu fell silent after hearing this. It had only been slightly more than 2 years since Jian Wushuang killed Deng Hua. But, since he had relied on his realm technique and puppet fighter, his true strength had been questioned. No one thought that his strength had reached such an amazing level. "It seems he is going to the inner layer." Shuiyang gazed towards the direction in which Jian Wushuang had disappeared. "The inner layer?" Mengyu was surprised and said, "How could that be? Isn't the inner layer a battlefield for lords? Do you still think that his strength is only in the Saint Realm? Shuiyang shot a questioning look at Mengyu. Mengyu was stunned, but she quickly understood. Jian Wushuang had killed an expert at the heaven-defying level in a single exchange. Not even a normal lord could do that, so he was definitely capable of exploring the inner layer. There will be another supreme expert in Marquis Piaoshua's camp. The maze seemed to be boundless. Jian Wushuang followed the route on the map and finally arrived at its outer layer. In front of him was a bottomless abyss, above which a black rock bridge connected the two sides. Jian Wushuang stared at the 4 statue-still figures on the bridge with narrowed eyes. Cross that bridge and I'll get into the inner layer. However, it's not easy. Those figures were puppet fighters and were as powerful as lords, and Jian Wushuang had to pass by them to enter the inner layer. Sword essence swept over from the triple-kill sword in Jian Wushuang's hand, and behind him, 2 sword soul phantoms rose up high. Go! Jian Wushuang rushed toward the figures like a streak of flowing light, leaving his shadows behind. The 4 puppet fighters opened their eyes just as Jian Wushuang stepped onto the bridge, their pupils flashing with green light. For whooshing sounds were heard before the puppets attacked Jian Wushuang. Jian Wushuang's sword went dancing outward, and the flurry of blows looked like a peacock showing its tail. Bang! 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 There were 4 consecutive clashes of metal on metal, and the 4 puppets were held off for a while. Jian Wushuang leaped twice, going around the puppets to their backs, and kept on moving. In no time, he crossed the bridge and stepped into the inner layer. When he crossed the bridge, the 4 puppets again turned into motionless statues. Not that hard. Jian Wushuang looked back at the puppet fighters. He felt that it was easy to pass by the 4 powerful puppets, and every expert as powerful as a lord would feel the same. But, if it had been to kill the puppets, it would have been a much more difficult challenge. Therefore, he reckoned that the puppets had been left there to obstruct those who were weaker than a lord. When Jian Wushuang arrived in the inner layer, he took out the map again. Just like the outer layer, the inner layer is also a maze consisting of secret chambers. The difference is that the chambers in the outer layer are empty, few contain opportunities or treasures, while those in the inner layer are the opposite. The marks on the map refer to the places that have been explored by other experts, and where the opportunities and treasures have been taken away. I have to target those unexplored places to get my opportunities. Jian Wushuang's eyes were fixed on the map. He was interested in the areas that had not been explored and were full of uncertainties. Let's begin. Staring at the 3 channels in front of him, he stepped onto the left one without thinking after taking a deep breath. He marched forward courageously, for he was in a frequented area, where he could go off to the dangerous places that were marked on the map. 1 hour later, he arrived at an open space, and before him were 9 different channels. From here onward, I'll be in a place that hasn't been explored. He looked grim as he surveyed the 9 channels, and finally he took the 4th path. The channel was dark and wide, leading him to an unknown world full of mysteries. Jian Wushuang slowed his pace and remained alert, studying the surroundings. It was clear to him that any carelessness would put him in danger. Clomp! Clomp! Suddenly, he heard footsteps in front of him. Is there someone coming? He stopped moving and looked into the darkness with a solemn expression. He guessed that he might encounter a lord of the 2 camps because most lords from the camps were trying their luck at those unexplored places in this mansion. Soon, a bent figure came into his sight, whose token could not be sensed. He is from a rival camp. Jian Wushuang immediately became on his guard. The figure approached him slowly and stopped 100 feet away. He is... Jian Wushuang stared fixedly at the figure, who was in a gray robe and had a weather-beaten face. He is Black Hill Lord from Marquis Xianxia's camp. Jian Wushuang recognized the man at first glance due to a file that he had read. The file belonged to Deng Hua, a man he had killed, and in it was detailed information of many lords and experts. The Saint Realm, Black Hill Lord called out in amazement and stared at Jian Wushuang with sharp eyes. How can you, a boy in the Saint Realm, get into the inner layer? Who brought you in? Black Hill Lord looked down at Jian Wushuang in an overbearing manner. He thought it was impossible for a boy in the Saint Realm to break into the inner layer through the puppet fighter's guard all by himself. It had to be with someone's help, like a powerful lord. Black Hill Lord, are you questioning me? Jian Wushuang answered, arms crossed in front of his chest, looking into the Lord's eyes. Questioning you? Yes, I am. So what? Black Hill Lord wore a cold smile. Boy, whoever brought in you here isn't around now. You're on your own. So why not be more humble? Oh? Really? Jian Wushuang did not take his suggestion. Why is he so arrogant in front of me? Black Hill Lord's complexion looked strange as he looked Jian Wushuang up and down. So young and so arrogant. A boy in the Saint Realm with a long sword. A sliver of light flashed in Black Hill Lord's eyes. Then he said, I've heard that there is a new expert at the heaven-defying level in Marquis Piaoshua's camp who is named Swordsman. It's you, isn't it? Jian Wushuang did not answer the Lord's question, but just stared at him coldly. I've been in this mansion for quite a while and haven't gotten my opportunity for treasure yet. But here you are with the greatest luck around. Black Hill Lord smiled cruelly. Boy, your life has a lot of value in our camp. So, it will be a rewarding exploration as long as I kill you. The Lord held a long black spear in his hand as he spoke, and its surging power revealed its nature as a first-grade magic weapon. Filled with killing desire, Black Hill Lord moved. Swish! The spear pierced through the void and approached Jian Wushuang like a black ghost. Swirling, it targeted Jian Wushuang's throat like a snake targeting its prey. It was a fast strike, much faster than an expert in the Saint Realm could make. Is this a strike from a lord? Watching the spear coming at him, Jian Wushuang stayed calm and even admired the lord in his heart. Lords are indeed more powerful than those in the Saint Realm. Even an ordinary lord can surpass an expert at the heaven-defying level, whether in speed, power, or bodily strength. I reckon that no experts at the heaven-defying level can withstand this strike. Jian Wushuang became lost in thought. Is he too terrified to move? The overbearing Black Hill Lord sneered when seeing Jian Wushuang frozen in place. He thought that it was due to fear. When the spear was nearly touching his throat, Jian Wushuang finally reached out his hand to make a fist and threw it at the spear with all his power behind it. Boom! The two terrifying forces collided together, shaking the mansion. Jian Wushuang was thrown back by the force like a flying shell and smashed into the walls. As the walls cracked, broken pieces continually fell. Is he dead? Black Hill Lord's breath surged, puffing up his hair and beard. He looked toward Jian Wushuang with ruthless eyes. To his surprise, with light footsteps, Jian Wushuang walked out from the ruins and came up to him again. How could this be? The Lord, though, in amazement. An ordinary expert at the heaven-defying level can hardly even withstand that strike, as 90% of my power was behind it. He, however, was not only able to withstand it, but was not even hurt. When Black Hill Lord saw that Jian Wushuang was as powerful as before without even a scratch on him, he became even more shocked. Obviously, his attack had not worked on Jian Wushuang. As Jian Wushuang stood firmly in front of the Lord, he brushed the dirt off his cloth before shooting a cold eye at him. As a lord, is this all you've got? He sneered. Say it again, I dare you. Black Hill Lord's face turned livid. Humph. Jian Wushuang snorted and continued. Don't talk as if you can kill me. Nevertheless, I'd love to see how you will try it. You are courting death. The Lord was enraged. A tremendous aura swept out from his body, and at the same time, he approached Jian Wushuang like a ghost and launched a series of attacks with his spear. Chew! 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 3 strikes in succession. The spear was so fast that Jian Wushuang could only see 3 blinding flashes of light coming to hunt him. Funny. He laughed and took out the triple-kill sword. He twisted his wrist and simply brandished the sword with all his spiritual power, physical strength, and the power of his 4 origin marks. It might have been a simple strike, but the Lord felt the formidable force behind it. The force roared at him, smashed his attacks, and overwhelmed his body with its remaining power. Black Hill Lord let out a suppressed sound, with his face pale and blood streaming from the corner of his mouth, and he kept falling back. How could this happen? He raised his head and glared at Jian Wushuang in horror. How could he overpower me as just a boy in the Saint Realm? Under that gaze, Jian Wushuang burst out an immense sword essence, and behind him emerged two sword soul phantoms over 100 feet high, which increased his power. Sword soul phantoms? The Lord's mouth twitched. So, he overpowered me without using his sword soul? You are just a novice lord in the three-cloud realm. How dare you claim that you can kill me? Jian Wushuang's voice resounded in the mansion and rocked the Lord's heart. Now, let's see who will be the one that is killed. Damn! Black Hill Lord's appearance looked grave. He knew that he could not beat Jian Wushuang, now or before, with or without the double first-grade Sword Soul's presence. But how can he be so powerful in only the Saint Realm? The Lord was muddled, but he had no time to solve his confusion. He had to find a way to survive. Right then, a roar was heard from far away. What's that? Jian Wushuang turned back only to find a golden figure diving toward them at amazing speed. The figure did not give any sign of being a living thing, and it turned out to be a puppet fighter. Jian Wushuang's eyes became sharp. A gold-armored puppet? Black Hill Lord was even more frightened. Run! Run! Without thinking, the Lord headed back and started running desperately. It was clear to him that he could defeat neither Jian Wushuang nor the gold-armored puppet. You're running nowhere. Jian Wushuang chased after the Lord immediately, his eyes filled with killing desire. But before he could catch up to Black Hill Lord, the puppet fighter caught up to him and hit him with a huge fist. So fast! Jian Wushuang was surprised by the puppet's speed. After all, a moment before, the gold-armored puppet was still far away when Jian Wushuang started chasing Black Hill Lord at his fastest speed. Boom! A booming sound reached Jian Wushuang from behind. He gave up chasing Black Hill Lord and turned around to face the gold-armored puppet. He thrust at the puppet with his triple-kill sword. Boom! Another booming sound and Jian Wushuang was thrown back and smashed against the wall. How terrifying his power is! Terror escaped Jian Wushuang's eyes. He had used all his power and even his double sword souls, but still he was defeated. After knocking Jian Wushuang away, the puppet fighter dived at him again and struck him with his fist, which had the strength of billions of pounds behind it. Jian Wushuang dodged to the side quickly and the fist finally fell on the wall, leaving a large hole in it. Shocked, Jian Wushuang stared at the hole. From what he had seen, he could tell that the puppet was indeed powerful because an ordinary lord was able to do no more than crack the wall, which had been specially reinforced and was quite solid, but the puppet had smashed through it. The gold-armored puppet lives up to its reputation as the strongest one among the puppets, Jian Wushuang said in his heart. There were so many puppet fighters in the outer layer and inner layer of this mansion, and they were the biggest threats to those explorers. In the inner layer, the puppets were divided into three types: the copper-armored puppet, silver-armored puppet, and gold-armored puppet. Among them, the copper-armored puppet was the weakest one, while the gold-armored puppet was the strongest. In addition to its power and excellent speed, the gold-armored puppet can match the battle strength of the experts in the five-cloud realm, Jian Wushuang recalled in his mind. The biggest difference between the cloud realm and the saint realm was the difference between the cloud and the origin mark. One in the saint realm was about to comprehend the origin and generate origin marks, and when he broke into the cloud realm, his origin marks would be transformed into clouds. One's level in the cloud realm was dependent on how many clouds he had. Normally, if someone had 3 origin marks, his marks would be transformed into 3 clouds after a breakthrough and bring him up to the 3-cloud realm. For an ordinary expert in the saint realm, 3 origin marks was his maximum, and few could generate 4 marks in such a realm. Therefore, most people were only in the 3-cloud realm after their breakthrough. If they wanted to step a level higher, they had to enhance their comprehension of the origin. It was said that the highest level in the cloud realm was the legendary 9-cloud realm. However, like a legend, the people at such a level appeared once in a blue moon. Their number of clouds could also differentiate the lords from each other. The lords in the 3-cloud realm were the weakest ones and were called novice lords. Black Hill Lord, who had fought with Jian Wushuang, was among them. Novice lords were just a bit stronger than the experts at the heaven-defying level, who could stand a chance to beat the former with their full power. Although Jian Wushuang was just at the heaven-defying level, as a genius among those at the same level, he far surpassed them. Long Xiang, who had been killed by him, was the best evidence of his real battle strength. Jian Wushuang was not sure about his level, but he reckoned that he was stronger than novice lords. That was the reason why, from the very beginning, he had not taken Black Hill Lord and his arrogant words seriously. If it had not been for the gold-armored puppet's interference, he was sure that Black Hill Lord would be dead already rather than having slipped away when he was busy fighting with the puppet. In addition to novice lords, there were also intermediate lords, advanced lords, and superior lords. Intermediate lords referred to the lords in the four-cloud realm. Advanced lords referred to the lords in the five-cloud realm. Superior lords referred to the lords in the six-cloud realm. And above them were marquises. The acknowledged 72 marquises were all in the seven-cloud realm or higher. With my heavenly creation skill, cultivation, spiritual power, strong body, and double first-grade sword soul, I'm not weaker than any intermediate lord, and then adding my skills to that, I might be on a par with them. However, I'm still no match for the advanced lords, Jian Wushuang thought. To sum it up briefly, he concluded that his strength was outstanding among intermediate lords but weaker than advanced lords. Based on that conclusion, he changed his mind about facing the gold-armored puppet, who was as strong as an advanced lord. I'd better go now. Nothing good will come from fighting him. Having made up his mind, he released the blood river, which swept out and covered the entire tunnel. Then, he displayed the hundredfold realm of the sword realm. Meanwhile, as he activated the formation contained in the blood-fire ring on his wrist, the blood-fire domain spread out. The three techniques, Road to the Underworld, Hundredfold Realm, and Blood-Fire Domain, worked together and oppressed the puppet. Under that oppression, the puppet became slower. Sure enough, with my current power and the three realm techniques, I can exert pressure even on advanced lords. Jian Wushuang's eyes flickered when he saw the puppet slow down due to his realms. He then continued on forward and left the puppet far behind. Did I get rid of him? Jian Wushuang continued to move and felt relieved as the puppet was no longer in sight. Who built this mansion? Why are there so many powerful puppet fighters guarding it? Was the owner a puppet-making master? Such questions crossed his mind. After seeing so many high-quality puppets, with some in the inner layer being even as powerful as advanced lords, Jian Wushuang could do nothing but be lost in confusion. It must be hard to make those puppets. As he was thinking, a secret chamber in front of him attracted his attention. A secret chamber? Jian Wushuang's eyes lit up. Different from the secret chambers in the outer layer, nearly all the chambers in the inner layer contained treasures and opportunities. Nearly every untouched chamber meant there would be something to gain. And because Jian Wushuang was now in an unexplored area, the chamber before his eyes might be the same. Without thinking, Jian Wushuang opened the door and walked in. The first thing he saw was a purple saber floating in the air. The saber gave off a ruthless aura, surrounded by purple thunderbolts. Its aura, it's a first-grade magic weapon. Jian Wushuang beamed with joy. A first-grade magic weapon might have been rare in the Divine Land, but it was common in this mansion, as there were so many magic weapons, manuals, and elixirs of the first grade. Jian Wushuang went over to the saber and tried to gather it in his interspatial ring, but he was stopped by a purple thunderbolt. Get away from me! How dare you, a sword principal cultivator and in the Saint Realm, try to take hold of me? Get lost! A fierce voice echoed in Jian Wushuang's mind. Jian Wushuang raised his eyebrows and observed the saber. Magic weapons always had their spirits, and a first-grade magic weapon spirit could be very intelligent. And this spirit of the saber was as wild as the saber itself. Interesting. Jian Wushuang smiled and reached his hand toward the saber again. Get your hands off me! As the saber let out a shrill scream, purple thunderbolts continued emerging from the blade one after another. An ordinary expert at stage 2 or 3 might have shrunk back, but Jian Wushuang was different. Although he was hit by the purple thunderbolts, Jian Wushuang was not hurt at all. Eventually, he was able to grab the saber firmly and put it into his interspatial ring by force. "You're just a spirit, so stop struggling." Jian Wushuang sneered and was about to leave the chamber. Right then, he heard someone talking. "There's a secret chamber here, but it seems that someone has broken in before us. Is someone coming here?" Jian Wushuang walked out of the chamber with a frown. The moment he was out of the room, he saw two figures approaching him. One of them was a slovenly black-haired man, and the other one was a stone-faced man in a long silver robe. At that moment, they spotted Jian Wushuang as well. They seemed to be surprised upon discovering that Jian Wushuang was in the Saint Realm. And after they could see his face clearly, their facial expressions became strange. Jian Wushuang had the same expression on his face as the two men did while he bowed and said, "Your Excellency." That black-haired man was no other than Iron Saber Lord himself. Jian Wushuang had come from the Iron Saber territory and was a commander in Iron Saber Lord's camp. Moreover, he had been on the flaming battlefield under his orders. From the very beginning, he had been an underling of this lord. "Swordsman." Iron Saber Lord looked at Jian Wushuang with a frown. "Never thought I would meet you here. Iron Saber, it's bold for your man to make his way here as only an expert in the Saint Realm." The stone-faced man showed a meaningful smile. He was Jian Wushuang's acquaintance. "Your Excellency." Jian Wushuang greeted the other man, Silver Wing Lord. He had met the Lord once when he was still in the Iron Saber territory. At that time, the Lord had been a man of great supremacy to him and had intimidated him. But now Jian Wushuang felt quite calm seeing him again. "Swordsman?" Iron Saber Lord pulled a long face and continued. "The inner layer is a dangerous place. Even I have to be extremely careful while exploring here. You're just in the Saint Realm and should try your luck in the outer layer." "So, what are you doing here?" Jian Wushuang looked up at his lord. He could see that the words of the Lord were attempting to reprimand him, and that somehow warmed his heart. He understood that Iron Saber Lord had said that because he thought of him as a brother and cared for his safety. "When I was serving as a commander in the Iron Saber territory, I heard that His Excellency cares for his men very much. Now I know it's true," thought Jian Wushuang. Then he said to his lord, "Your Excellency, I'm not interested in the opportunities or treasures in the outer layer." "So, then you entered the inner layer?" Before Iron Saber Lord could finish speaking, Silver Wing Lord chipped in with a smile. "Boy, don't you know that the inner layer is a battlefield only for lords? What's your business here?" Jian Wushuang could not find the words to answer that question. "I can't say that it's because I think I'm no weaker than a lord. And even if I did say so, I guess they wouldn't believe me. Well, since he is already here, there is no need to figure out the reason." Iron Saber Lord waved his hand and ended the topic. He said to Jian Wushuang with concern in his eyes, "The inner layer is full of danger. You're lucky to have made your way this far, but you won't always be such a lucky one. Encountering a more powerful puppet fighter will only lead you to a dead end. So, from this moment on, you're going to stay with me. Silver Wing and I will try our best to keep you safe." However, upon hearing this, Silver Wing Lord frowned and argued with him. "Iron Saber, we're in a dangerous place and might meet with trouble at any time. He will only slow us down. It's Swordsman is my subordinate." Iron Saber Lord shot a glance at Silver Wing Lord. Silver Wing Lord forced a smile and shrugged, saying, "Fine. Since you're the stronger one, it's up to you." Upon hearing that, Jian Wushuang could not help rolling his eyes and saying, "Your Excellencies, don't worry. I'll take care of myself. Maybe I can lend a hand if we run into danger." "Lend us a hand?" "No." Silver Wing Lord looked at Jian Wushuang meaningfully and continued, "Boy, I know that you have killed a rival at the heaven-defying level, but it will be a different story to kill a lord. You'll learn that when you've fought with a real lord. We don't expect you to help us. It'll be fine as long as you don't drag us down," said Silver Wing Lord to Jian Wushuang. Iron Saber Lord gave Jian Wushuang a casual glance. His expression clearly said that he did not take Jian Wushuang's words seriously. Seeing this, Jian Wushuang forced a smile. It was all because he was only in the Saint realm, which caused the lords to despise him. Silver Wing Lord doesn't know my real battle strength and that I'm not weaker than him, Jian Wushuang thought to himself. Iron Saber Lord is an advanced lord, so I'm no match for him, but I'm sure that I would at least stand a chance against Silver Wing Lord since he's an intermediate lord. Right then, Iron Saber Lord suddenly turned over his hand, revealing a messaging slip. The slip instantly started burning by itself. This is a messaging slip from Spirit Lord. Normally, he wouldn't use it unless there was an emergency. Iron Saber Lord looked serious. Jian Wushuang and Silver Wing Lord looked toward his hand. After the slip finished burning, a hazy figure appeared. Though they could not see his appearance very clearly, they still recognized that it was Spirit Lord. Iron Saber, said the figure in Spirit Lord's voice. Is there anyone with you? Yes, Silver Wing Lord and Iron Saber Lord glanced at Jian Wushuang and continued. Just Silver Wing Lord and I. He had wanted to add Jian Wushuang's name, but decided against it due to Jian Wushuang only being in the Saint realm. You and Silver Wing? After a moment of pondering, the figure waved his hand, causing a map to appear in front of them. It was a map of this mansion. The figure pointed at an area on the map and said, At this position, a fierce battle is taking place over a treasure. Loftiness Lord, from our camp, discovered it, but Marquis Xianxia's camp doesn't want to let it go. More and more people are gathering there, so you too should go there as soon as possible. Remember, whatever it takes, you can't let Marquis Xianxia's camp take the treasure from us. Upon hearing this, Iron Saber Lord and Silver Wing Lord looked solemn. Whatever it takes? Iron Saber Lord asked with a frown. Spirit, what in the world is the treasure? The figure fell silent for a moment before saying, A Dao weapon. What? Iron Saber Lord and Silver Wing Lord were both astonished when they heard the answer. A Dao weapon? Jian Wushuang's eyes became sharp. After such a long time in the Divine Land, he was no longer the naive boy from the Nanyang continent. He knew that once one becomes as powerful as a lord, he would process a first-grade magic weapon, even though they were very precious and rare in the Divine Land. So they were not that precious to a lord. Even Jian Wushuang himself had a first-grade magic weapon, not to mention that more than 10 of them had been found in this mansion during the past several days. Simply put, first-grade magic weapons were not that important to lords. However, a Dao weapon, that was a different story. Dao weapons were superior to the first-grade magic weapons, but they only existed in legend. Moreover, the reason they were called Dao weapons was because each one was connected to a supreme Dao, which was a power that was far more advanced and formidable than the origin. In general, even a marquis might not process a Dao weapon, let alone a lord. This was exactly why the news that a Dao weapon was found in this mansion had rocked everyone. As far as I know, our Marquis and Marquis Xianxia are both in the Seven Cloud realm, but neither of them has a Dao weapon. I guess they have other businesses and have not heard the news yet. Otherwise, they would already be here, Iron Saber Lord said. A Dao weapon. Silver Wing Lord chimed in with admiration. A Dao weapon could capture the hearts of many marquises. Iron Saber, Silver Wing, you two head there right now and support Loftiness Lord. Tell him that he must definitely take the weapon back intact. After saying this, Spirit Lord's figure immediately disappeared. Let's go before it's too late, Iron Saber Lord said to Silver Wing Lord and Jian Wushuang. Okay, the two nodded. In no time, the three were headed towards their destination. Since they were close to the area, it only took them an hour to get there. But they were completely stupefied by what they saw when they arrived. Right in front of them was a huge open space, about the size of a martial arts practice field, with dozens of people fighting each other. Bang! 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 Deafening noise resounded throughout the whole area as terrifying waves of power continuously surged through the area, landing the surrounding walls and leaving craters in them. This was the effect of more than 40 lords displaying their magnificent auras and fighting amongst themselves. Is this what a battle between 40 lords is like? Jian Wushuang was stunned. Iron Saber Lord and Silver Wing Lord looked grave. Among the fighters, two figures attracted the most attention. One of them was a short old lady, who glowed with a green light, and the other one was a tall man, who was over 2 meters high and looked like a brown bear. She is Demon Soul Lord, from Marquis Xianxia's camp. How long has this old witch lived? Why is she still alive? Iron Saber Lord and Silver Wing Lord looked toward the old lady with fear. The lady had been super experts for many years, and they had reached the Six-Cloud realm long ago. As a superior lord, she was only a step away from becoming a marquis. At this moment, she was still in the Six-Cloud realm, but she had become much stronger than before. Demon Soul Lord was fighting with Loftiness Lord, a lord from Marquis Piaoshua's camp. It's amazing that Loftiness Lord is managing to hold his own against that old witch. Silver Wing Lord was surprised. Pay attention to the weapon he is using. Iron Saber Lord looked solemn as his eyes fixed on the blood-red spear Loftiness Lord was using. The spear was conspicuous because it possessed a daunting aura that couldn't be found in other weapons. It's a Dao weapon. Jian Wushuang's eyes were sparkling. Just now, he had learned something about these two lords who were busy fighting. Demon Soul Lord was extremely powerful among superior lords, only a step away from becoming a marquis. However, Loftiness Lord was just an advanced lord. He should be no match for Demon Soul Lord, yet he was currently holding on in a close fight, only because he had a Dao weapon. Is this the power of a Dao weapon? Can it enable an advanced lord to challenge a superior lord? Jian Wushuang exclaimed. It can be much more powerful than this when it's in the hands of a marquis. Loftiness Lord can't display its full power, said Iron Saber Lord. Jian Wushuang was in awe. The Dao weapon aroused his interest despite the fact that he was only good with swords, not spears. Swordsman, Silver Wing, and I won't be able to look at for you the whole time. So keep away from those lords and don't expose yourself to them. Iron Saber Lord shot Jian Wushuang a glance, and then quickly turned to Silver Wing. Let's join the fight. Okay. Silver Wing Lord responded with a nod. Immediately, two flowing light shot forward as the two lords dived directly into the fight. Two more fighters. It's Iron Saber Lord and Silver Wing Lord. Merely an advanced lord and an intermediate lord. Hold them off. As soon as the order was issued, some experts from Marquis Xianxia's camp immediately came forward to battle Iron Saber Lord and Silver Wing Lord. Except for their opponents, the two lords had not attracted the attention of anyone else because there were already dozens of lords fighting. After all, experts from both sides were continuously joining the battle. There are more and more lords coming. Jian Wushuang stood still at the edge of the battlefield, remaining uninvolved. To him, it was a rare scene. The battlefield was constantly expanding as the number of lords increased. In a short while, the number of lords that were fighting had exceeded 50. But the number of lords from each side was close, causing both sides to be locked in intense fight. Only a Dao weapon can cause so many lords to fight like this, Jian Wushuang thought. The fighting had already lasted for a long time without the loss of too many lords. Most of the experts from the two sides were equal in strength, so the number of lords that died was not large. Right then, swish! From one of the outer tunnels, a figure charged out and entered the battlefield. The presence of this figure caused a stir on the battlefield. Myriad Island's Lord. Haha! Myriad Island's Lord has arrived. Damn! It's Myriad Island's Lord. The lords from both sides showed different expressions due to this new arrival. Those from Marquis Xianxia's side were delighted, while those from the other side looked worried. Myriad Island's Lord was well known in his camp, Marquis Xianxia's camp. However, it was not for his power as a lord, but his fame as an excellent master in formations. After all, he was just an advanced lord, so he did not surpass very many of the people here. Hump! Myriad Island's Lord snorted as he entered the battlefield. Then he waved his hands twice and released two light beams that swept through the area. The lights quickly turned into two wide formations. He set up two formations so easily? He must have been prepared for this. We're in big trouble. The lords from Marquis Piaoshua's camp frowned. They knew, even though the formations had been set up casually, the power behind them had to be extraordinary. It didn't take long for their worries to turn out to be true. I'm regaining my spiritual power. So am I. I can feel it. I'm regaining my spiritual power at a threefold rate. So am I, and it's even more than that. I can sense that my power has been strengthened. Yes, I felt that too. The experts on Marquis Xianxia's side realized how the formations worked. One of the formations could help the experts regain their spiritual power, and the other one could enhance their attacks to a certain extent. The formations elevated the strength of Marquis Xianxia's camp a lot. Haha! Myriad Island's Lord is so helpful. With these two formations, we no longer need to be afraid of anyone. Kill them all. The lords on Marquis Xianxia's side gained courage and began launching attacks, one after another. The balance between the two camps had been broken by Myriad Island's Lord and his formations. Now Marquis Xianxia's side had gained the upper hand. Shit! Damn it! That horrible Myriad Island's Lord. The experts of Marquis Piaoshua's side looked grave, but they still tried their best to hold their opponents back. At the center of the battlefield, as the formations were set up, Loftiness Lord began to experience even more pressure than before. After all, the only reason he could stand up against his opponent, the more powerful Demon Soul Lord, was because of the Dao weapon. Loftiness, you know that my Marquis is a spear user, so this Dao weapon is very important to him. I advise you to give it up now, before you get yourself killed, Demon Soul Lord said in a warning tone. Humph! You will only get it over my dead body, Loftiness Lord said and snorted. You're courting death. Demon Soul Lord charged at Loftiness Lord in a rage. Jian Wushuang had remained at one side of the battlefield and not gotten involved all this time while the countless lords and experts from the two large camps were maniacally tearing at each other's throats. The battling lords had noticed his presence as well, but nobody bothered about him after seeing that he was only a Saint Realm expert. It's certainly rare to see so many lords battling against each other and displaying all sorts of skills. Jian Wushuang laughed mildly. Some of the skills being used by these lords were extremely odd and unorthodox, causing Jian Wushuang to be astounded. This was especially so for the recently arrived Myriad Islands Lord. As soon as he came, he casually waved his hand to set up two formations which immediately turned the situation on the battlefield around. This skill was truly impressive. It was apparent at present that Drifting Blood Marquis camp had fallen into an absolute disadvantage on the battlefield. In the centermost of the battlefield, particularly, Loftiness Lord had gradually become unable to cope with the frenzied offensive of Demon Soul Lord. If he was killed, the Dao weapon would fall into the hands of Pale Moon Marquis camp at once. For good or bad, I'm a member of Drifting Blood Marquis camp. It's not my style to watch on from the sidelines. Jian Wushuang thought to himself, laughing. When he saw a figure on the battlefield, a faint and strange smile emerged at the corner of his mouth, following which his figure drifted forth toward the battlefield as well. On the battlefield, swish, 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 a pitch-black spear shadow pierced forth like a flood dragon bursting out of the sea. The gray-robed weathered elder, Black Hill Lord's, expression was frosty as his eyes fixed upon his opponent, a novice lord from Drifting Blood Marquis camp. There are too many lords and too many people who are stronger than me on the battlefield. I have to be careful and make sure that nobody else is targeting me. While in the midst of battle, Black Hill Lord kept a vigilant eye on his surroundings. There were many intermediate and advanced lords among the more than 50 battling lords. Novice lords like him were the weakest participants on the battlefield, and naturally their chances of defeat were very high. That was why he did not dare to loosen up one bit. Right at this moment, a soft wind-breaking sound was suddenly heard from behind Black Hill Lord's back, and it was accompanied by an icy gush of killing intent. The killing intent caused Black Hill Lord to instinctively turn his body over forcefully, only to see Jian Wushuang brandishing a long sword and thrusting it at his chest. The thrust was extremely fast and its angle of approach was tricky like none other. Had he reacted just a little slower, it would have easily perforated his chest. It's you! Black Hill Lord glared at Jian Wushuang and recognized him. He had previously encountered Jian Wushuang right in this inner layer channel, and they even exchanged blows. The battle strength which the latter exerted back then had shocked him. Had a gold-armored puppet not appeared in time, it would have been uncertain whether he could escape alive. He twisted his body as soon as he saw Jian Wushuang's strike coming at him, causing the sword light to brush past his shoulders. "Your response is pretty fast, eh?" Jian Wushuang grinned. "What a close shave." Black Hill Lord heaved in silence. But suddenly, an inexplicable sense of danger rose from the bottom of his heart once again. Although Jian Wushuang's strike had missed, a beam of dazzling light was now gradually emerging from between his eyebrows. Jian Wushuang's glabella seemed to split apart at this moment. An absolutely terrifying sword essence surged forth like a streak of thunderbolt. It was the first-grade sword technique, Mind's Eye. It was performed by consolidating sword essence in one's heart before releasing at the crucial moment. The longer the time that the sword essence was consolidated, the more powerful it would be. The last time Jian Wushuang displayed the Mind's Eye sword technique was while he was in Nanyang continent, and that was nearly 4 years ago. Since then, his glabella had been continuously storing different types of sword essence, of which the one he was currently displaying was merely the weakest variation. Despite it being the weakest, Black Hill Lord was completely not in time to react when it shot forth. His throat was thus perforated by the sword shadow, and his body collapsed sapless to the ground. Black Hill Lord, dead. Although the fighting on the battlefield was exceptionally intense, there were not many lords who had fallen, and therefore every slain lord would garner a lot of attention. Black Hill Lord's death, too, attracted many eyeballs. "Another one is dead. Is that Black Hill Lord? Humph, he's just a novice lord, little wonder he's dead. The person who killed him." Huh. When it was discovered that the person who killed Black Hill Lord was Jian Wushuang, everyone on the entire battlefield was astonished, and they began to look perplexedly at the swordsman. It was him, this fella. He was the one who killed Black Hill Lord? The facial expressions of the lords present turned odd involuntarily. Though they had noticed Jian Wushuang's presence earlier on, who would care about a Saint Realm expert when most of everyone else were lords? That was until he killed a lord from Pale Moon Marquis Camp. Swordsman, Iron Saber Lord and Silver Wing Lord were shocked too. They never imagined that Jian Wushuang would be capable of killing a lord. Though he had accomplished it via sneak attacks, it was nevertheless very impressive already. Humph! When Myriad Island's Lord of Pale Moon Marquis Camp saw what happened, he immediately grunted, "Kill that little one!" A shrill wind-breaking sound was heard. Jian Wushuang saw a burly man appear beside him holding a saber and striking it at his brain. He judged from the man's aura that the latter was an intermediate lord. "Swordsman, fall back!" Iron Saber Lord shouted urgently. With a move of his body, Jian Wushuang left a residual shadow where he was standing while his real body shifted backward. He seemed very calm as he did so. "Everyone from Drifting Blood Marquis Camp, get ready?" Jian Wushuang lingered in the middle of a void, while his powerful voice diffused throughout the battlefield. "Get ready? For what?" The experts from Drifting Blood Marquis Camp were puzzled. But right at this moment, it was time for Jian Wushuang to display his true skill. An immense gush of killing intent soared like a tide from his body and immediately transformed into a winding blood river which extended outward. At the same time, immaterial sword realms burst forth rapidly from his body. After activating the Bloodfire Ring, the Bloodfire domain began to spread out as well. Road to the Underworld Hundredfold Realm and Bloodfire domain. The combination of these three realms caused the entire battlefield to be shrouded within a blood river in the blink of an eye. Jian Wushuang stood in the absolute middle of the blood river. His gaze, which was ice-cold and carried not a shred of emotion, swept across the crowd of experts. "Realms suppress." A chilly cry was forcefully uttered from Jian Wushuang's mouth. Like a giant pair of pliers clamping down hard on something, the blood river tumbled toward the lords of Pale Moon Marquis Camp in no time. When the lords first saw the blood river appear, they felt somewhat astounded before the suppression took effect. Whoosh! At this moment, their bodies forcibly sank down, and the weaker ones among them nearly fell off their feet. Gosh! How is this possible? This is... The lords of Pale Moon Marquis Camp were stupefied. All they could feel at present was that an unfathomable strength was suppressing them, as if miring them deep. Their bodies were heavily locked down. What a frightening realm! The lords of Drifting Blood Marquis Camp were also shocked. Though the Blood River did not suppress them, they could perceive that its suppressive force was extremely strong. They thus cast bewildered looks toward Jian Wushuang. It was very difficult for them to imagine that such a frightening realm, which even advanced lords were being shackled by, could have been summoned by a Saint Realm expert whom they did not take seriously hitherto. Swordsman, Iron Saber Lord and Silver Wing Lord were astonished like never before. My goodness! Even I, an advanced lord, have suffered a strength reduction of nearly 30% due to this realm's suppressive force. Despite sinking into and being suppressed by the realm like the other lords, Myriad Island's lord revealed a face of outrage instead. He followed up by howling wildly, "Kill him quick!" Swish! Swish! Two beams of flowing light shot explosively toward Jian Wushuang. Pale Moon Marquis lords were mindful of how strong the realms summoned by Jian Wushuang were, and how strong the realm's impact upon the battle situation was. If Jian Wushuang was not killed, the advantage which they had built up thanks to their two formations would most certainly crumble, and they might even fall into an absolute disadvantage. Therefore, as soon as they could, the two lords closest in distance to the swordsman went on him. They were both intermediate lords. 7 Luminaries Lord, protect the swordsman quickly! Iron Saber Lord shouted when he saw what was happening. 7 Luminaries Lord was the person from Drifting Blood Marquis contingent who was closest in distance to Jian Wushuang. He was also an intermediate lord. As soon as he heard Iron Saber Lord's shouting, he sped toward the swordsman. But because he was unaccompanied and acted later than the two enemies, he did not have absolute confidence that he could intercept them. However, what he never imagined was that instead of retreating, Jian Wushuang would meet the two opposing lords head-on. Is he crazy? 7 Luminaries Lord was completely stunned. Swordsman, Iron Saber Lord was similarly taken aback. In fact, every lord on the battlefield was in disbelief, regardless of which camp they were from. A Saint Realm expert, being murderously charged at by two intermediate lords, would choose to meet them head-on instead of retreating? He has definitely gone mad. Drifting Blood Marquis lords could not help shaking their heads, as if they had already foreseen what the result would be. Though everyone else believed that Jian Wushuang had gone completely mad, he remained extraordinarily calm. My battle strength is definitely no weaker than an intermediate lord's, and in fact would be among their best. And with the realm's support, just 2 intermediate lords aren't enough to drive me back. A sparkle flashed in his eyes, and the 2 giant sword soul phantoms behind him rose. The triple kill sword in his hand knowingly emitted a heavy amount of sword essence. Streams of immense spiritual power gathered on his body, which was also packed with frightening muscular strength. Fixing his attention on the 2 intermediate lords, Jian Wushuang squinted his eyes and violently drew his sword. Second move of the heart-killing sword technique. With a simple thrust of the triple kill sword, he transformed it into a beam of lightning which pierced forth. It carried a resolute and tireless essence. The moment it appeared, heaven and earth seemed to move for it. Through Jian Wushuang's all-out exertion, the power of the technique all the more reached an unbelievable level. The 2 lords in front of Jian Wushuang also began to display their killing moves. One of them brandished a sledgehammer which struck ferociously like a giant mountain toward Jian Wushuang. The other person held a scarlet longsword. He raised both arms and slashed forth with an earth-splitting vigor. Both of them had also summoned their utmost strength. In a twinkling, the 3 different offensives, which were incomparably powerful, collided with each other in the void of the battlefield. Boom! A harsh roar was heard. Waves of residual energy swept in all directions from the spot where the offensives collided. After this exchange, Jian Wushuang retreated forcefully, and only came to a standstill a few dozen feet back. As for the 2 lords, they remained within the void and showed no signs of retreating. But suddenly, blarg, blarg, the 2 lords spat blood from their mouths and their complexions turned ghastly pale at once. The sight of this caused the lords from both camps to be dumbfounded. It was already considered a miracle when Jian Wushuang killed a lord by using a skill of his Saint Realm level earlier on. However, that was achieved through a sneak attack and contained a measure of luck, and thus it was grudgingly acceptable to them. This time, Jian Wushuang had once again summoned those terrifying realms. It was normal for people of average strength to possess a few of such unique and powerful skills. For instance, Myriad Island's Lord was highly proficient and terrifyingly accomplished in the use of formations. Jian Wushuang's possession of such frightening realm techniques hence remained within the range of what they could accept. But how about now? This had been a head-on exchange. Jian Wushuang had alone confronted two intermediate lords. The result was that the two lords were beaten until they spat blood, whereas Jian Wushuang simply retreated unharmed. What did this say? Pest! The lords from both camps gasped. It was only at this moment that they understood that this Saint Realm expert was an exceptional one. That little fella? Silver Wing Lord revealed a look of utter disbelief. It should be known that, in the beginning, he had believed that Jian Wushuang was essentially seeking death by coming to the inner area. He also remembered that Jian Wushuang once told him that if he ever ran into trouble, Jian Wushuang himself might be able to help. Neither Silver Wing Lord nor Iron Saber Lord took these words seriously back then, but now, this fella has inflicted heavy damage on two intermediate lords working together. His battle strength is stronger than mine. Silver Wing Lord heaved a sigh. Swordsman. Iron Saber Lord appeared beside Jian Wushuang and looked at him. Are you all right? I'm fine. Jian Wushuang laughed indifferently before he then said in an announcing voice, Everyone, feel free to go fight against the enemies. I'll do my best to help you with my realms. Upon hearing this, the lords of Drifting Blood Marquis Camp revealed expressions of pleasant surprise. Haha, let's go kill. Under such strong suppression by the realms, it's rather impressive that Pale Moon Marquis Lords can still exert 7/10 of their battle strength, and aren't too afraid. Humph. The realms of this swordsman, who is from our camp, is a notch stronger than Myriad Island's Lord's two formations. Fight! The fighting began anew immediately. Because of the presence of Jian Wushuang's realms, the advantage which Drifting Blood Marquis Camp had was completely turned around this time. After all, when the full suppressive force of those realms was in effect, even advanced lords would have their strength reduced by more than 3/10, while the restrictions imposed on intermediate and novice lords was even greater than that. It could thus be said that the strength of the entire Pale Moon Marquis Camp was greatly diminished. As for Myriad Island's Lord, the two formations which he set up were, due to a lack of time, simpler and less powerful than usual. The boost which they provided to Pale Moon Marquis Camp was far less than the suppression which Jian Wushuang's realms was causing to the lords. As a result, Pale Moon Marquis Camp not only lost the advantage they previously had but now found themselves in a disadvantageous position. Take Demon Soul Lord, who was standing in the centermost of the battlefield, for instance. Previously, she was so close to defeating and killing Loftiness Lord, but because of Jian Wushuang's realms, her strength was restrained considerably, giving Loftiness Lord the chance to catch his breath. Moreover, an advanced lord from Drifting Blood Marquis Camp came to partner Loftiness Lord, and she was thus no longer feared by the latter. Damn it! It's all because of that Saint Realm expert. Every one of the lords from Pale Moon Marquis Camp was incensed like never before. They had never imagined that their originally comfortable advantage would be nullified by a small Saint Realm expert from the enemy side. They had never taken him seriously before, but now Jian Wushuang had become key to the entire situation. Pale Moon Marquis Camp had thought several times about killing him, but because he was being protected by Iron Saber Lord and another advanced lord from Drifting Blood Marquis Camp, as well as because of his own exceptional battle strength, their attempts ended in failure each time. Right then, a black-robed figure emerged from a side channel and appeared on the battlefield. It sped immediately toward the centermost of the battlefield. There, Demon Soul Lord and Loftiness Lord were intensely engaged in a fight. They suddenly felt a shrill and powerful wind blowing at them. Who's this? Demon Soul Lord immediately turned and looked, only to find a fist filled with purple thunderbolts punching its way through the air directly toward her head. Although the terrifying fist had not struck her yet, its momentum alone caused palpitations in her, a superior lord's heart. Without hesitation, she transformed into a ghost and quickly shifted backward. Boom! The giant fist struck powerfully onto the void, causing the latter to shake violently and forming a blast wave which swept out forcibly. The blast wave forced back two intermediate lords who were busy fighting by the side. When the gaseous wave dissipated, a black-robed figure gradually appeared on the battlefield. The entire battlefield quietened down upon the appearance of the black-robed figure. Many lords looked toward the new arriver. He dressed fully in black, had a head of messy purple hair, and kept an uneven mustache. His jet-black eyes were incomparably profound, and in the deepest region of his pupils circulated a streak of purple thunderbolt. Black Yuan Lord. Demon Soul Lord's countenance changed upon recognizing the arriver. Similarly, the expressions of the lords from Pale Moon Marquis Camp turned unsightly. In contrast, the lords from Drifting Blood Marquis Camp revealed joyful expressions upon seeing the man. Among the many lords from Drifting Blood Marquis Camp, Black Yuan Lord was, in terms of strength, rated as one of the top 3 superior lords. It should be known that there were hundreds of lords under the command of Drifting Blood Marquis. Only a portion of them had come to seize back the cave mansion, and many were still on their way. There were thus only 1 or 2 superior lords of the Six-Cloud realm in attendance from either camp. And among the superior lords who were present, Demon Soul Lord, who was from Pale Moon Marquis Camp, was considered extremely powerful already. However, she was clearly a notch inferior to Black Yuan Lord. The latter possessed a matchlessly terrifying body which was recognized as the most powerful one in both camps combined. Even the bodies of Drifting Blood Marquis and Pale Moon Marquis themselves could probably not compare to his. And it was because of his powerful body that his battle strength was exceptionally terrifying. That's none other than Black Yuan Lord. Jian Wushuang was currently staring fixedly at him too. The former had heard of the latter while in Bay Mo Marquis Cave Mansion. The latter had, before that, collected 15 streaks of purple heaven thunderbolt from the universal thunderbolt pool in said cave mansion, and thereby developed his terrifying body. Rumor has it that Black Yuan Lord, who is considered to have the strongest body among the 2 large camps, had taken in 15 streaks of purple heaven thunderbolt from the universal thunderbolt pool, after which his body became comparable in power to a second-grade magic weapon. Subsequently, he was said to have obtained several opportunities which enhanced his body's strength to an entirely new level. I wonder whose body is stronger between him and me, Jian Wushuang muttered to himself. He had absolute confidence in his own body. His body was already comparable to a superior second-grade magic weapon. This was why, even as a Saint Realm expert, his power was on par with that of an intermediate lord. A powerful aura swept forth from Black Yuan Lord's body after he appeared. Loftiness Lord. He opened his mouth and spoke in a chilly voice. Black Yuan Lord. Loftiness Lord walked up to him donning a slightly respectful expression. Hand the Tao weapon to me, Black Yuan Lord said. Loftiness Lord nodded and, without hesitation, handed the blood-red spear he was holding to Black Yuan Lord. After he had received the weapon and while using it to fight against experts from Pale Moon Marquis Camp, he was sent a message from Spirit Lord informing him to hand the Tao weapon to Black Yuan Lord upon the latter's arrival. Tao weapon. Clutching the blood-red spear in his hand, Black Yuan Lord weighed it and nodded to himself. Then, with a wave of his hand, he kept the blood-red spear into an interspatial ring. Black Yuan Lord only began to look around after doing all these. Demon Soul Lord. The latter was the first person he looked toward. His voice, which was broad and seemed to contain a special magical power, rang out on the battlefield. This Tao weapon is now in my hands. If you're not happy about that, come at me as you will. I'll be glad to entertain. After he finished speaking, the lords from Marquis Tsongyua's camp could not but become silent, and their facial complexions became rather unsightly. They were well aware that if the Tao weapon was in Loftiness Lord's hands, they would have some hope of obtaining it by fighting. However, now that it had fallen into Black Yuan Lord's hands, they would have to kill him in order to obtain the weapon. However, not only was he extremely strong, but his body was acknowledged to be number 1 among both camps. Even if the 2 marquises personally worked together, they would not have absolute confidence about killing him. And without the marquises, They were utterly incapable of killing him, and naturally would not be able to take the weapon. Black Yuan Lord. Demon Soul Lord spoke, clenching her teeth. You ought to know that my Marquis considers the long spear to be a magic weapon. The Dao weapon you just received suits him perfectly. I know. Black Yuan Lord nodded slowly. I'll eventually pass this Dao weapon to Marquis Piaoxue. Your Marquis shall have to discuss it with him. Demon Soul Lord's face sank, and she said little else. The lords from Marquis Xianxia's camp were now gathered together. Although most of their attention was focused on Black Yuan Lord, some of them would look at Jian Wushuang from time to time. It's all because of that little fella. If not for his realms, we would certainly have killed Loftiness Lord and seized the Dao weapon before Black Yuan Lord arrived. It's the realm's fault. Lords from Marquis Xianxia's camp glared at Jian Wushuang with resentment. Marquis Piaoxue's camp had a different reaction. Haha! Our young swordsman friend. Swordsman brother. Your strength is truly outstanding. Many lords clustered beside Jian Wushuang. Every one of them treated him warmly and no longer put on the airs of a lord. After all, Jian Wushuang's use of strength during the battle had already proven that he was no weaker than a lord, though he was only a Saint Realm expert, and thus he naturally won the respect of every lord. Jian Wushuang laughed and acknowledged the warmth being shown by the lords. Suddenly, boom, the cave mansion, which had already quietened, abruptly began to tremor violently. The earth trembled and the mountains swayed. The entire cave mansion seemed as though it was going to cave in completely. What's going on? The lords from both camps frowned, revealing blank and puzzled looks. Even Black Yuan Lord was currently looking around in bewilderment. The entire cave mansion was shaking badly. Amidst the reactions of the lords, a large aura began to spread gradually. Though it was clearly still a considerable distance away from the lords, they were nonetheless horrified by its impending arrival. Furthermore, it spread upward at an astonishing speed such that it reached an entirely new height in only a short time. It pervaded the entire cave mansion, including the outer layer, causing experts in every corner of the cave mansion to feel its presence. The tremors gradually began to dissipate. Silence. The battlefield, where more than 50 lords and experts from the two large camps were gathered, fell into a dead silence. Took a while before some people began to talk. What exactly was that? What a widespread aura. Could it mean the creation of some treasure? Well, if this cave mansion even has a Dao weapon, then it's not surprising there are other treasures. The source of the aura is that way. Everyone looked toward the direction from which the aura originated. Let's go. Hurry up and get over there. Without any hesitation, the lords from both camps rushed in the direction of the aura's source. Black Yuan Lord and Demon Soul Lord also got moving. Swordsman and Silver Wing Lord. Let's go too. Iron Saber Lord instructed. Jian Wushuang and Silver Wing Lord nodded earnestly and followed the crowd. Although the lords from the two camps had been fighting against each other just a while ago, they now had a tacit understanding to put a hold on the conflict. On the way toward the aura's source, Myriad Island's Lord walked up beside Demon Soul Lord. Demon Soul Lord. Myriad Island's Lord kept his voice low so that only the former could hear his words. What's the matter? She asked. He put on a rather serious expression. Demon Soul Lord, you should be able to tell that the current situation is extremely unfavorable to our camp. Yes, I can tell. She nodded. Prior to the arrival of Black Yuan Lord, Marquis Xianxia's camp was already at an absolute disadvantage in the tussle for the Dao weapon. After his arrival, the gap between the two camps only grew. All this is because of that Saint Realm fella named Swordsman. Demon Soul Lord's chilly eyes involuntarily looked toward Jian Wushuang. Yes, it's all because of him, Myriad Island's Lord muttered. His realm technique is very powerful, much more so than the formations which I set up temporarily. If he remains in Marquis Piaoxue's camp going forward, he'll be a huge problem for us in future tussles over treasures. Demon Soul Lord's expression turned solemn. They were not overly concerned with Jian Wushuang's strength. Even if it compared favorably to that of an advanced lord's, it would not mean much to either camp. However, his realm technique was truly something else. Such a level of realm technique was always going to be a problem for either camp if possessed by the opposing camp. Demon Soul Lord, your strength is currently the greatest among the lords of Marquis Tsongyue's camp. I came to find you to tell you to kill the swordsman when there's an opportunity, Myriad Island's lord said in an indifferent tone. You want me to kill the swordsman? Demon Soul Lord frowned. We may know that the swordsman is important, but so does Marquis Piaoshua's camp. They'll definitely do everything possible to protect him. Even if it's me trying, chances of success are slim. Don't worry and just do your best. It doesn't matter if you don't actually kill him. All you need to do is make Marquis Piaoshua's lords focus their attention on you. Leave the swordsman to me, Myriad Island's lord assured confidently. Oh! Demon Soul Lord glanced astonishedly at Myriad Island's lord and subsequently nodded in agreement. The lords from both camps traced the aura to its source, which was not a far distance away. It turned out to be a lofty and massive palace. A palace? There's actually such a huge palace within this cave mansion? The aura originated from this palace? The lords arrived in front of the palace and raised their heads to examine the palace's exterior. The palace was completely covered in black and was incomparably massive. Within it was contained the unique and widespread aura. While this cave mansion is divided into an inner and outer layer, its real core is this palace, perhaps. Jian Wushuang mused. He was not the only person who thought so. The lords from both camps could tell that this palace was special and that there was a high chance it was the real core of the cave mansion. More importantly, if a Dao weapon could even be found in the inner layer, what could there be in the palace as the absolute core of the cave mansion? Everyone became expectant. Enter! Black Yuan Lord waved his hand and was the first to head toward the gate of the palace. Without hesitation, the lords from both camps entered the gate and stepped into the palace one after another. The palace, decorated in gold and jade, was extremely spacious within. The most noticeable object was the towering stone pillars, which each required a dozen or so people to encircle, and on which were carved numerous patterns. There was also a large number of extravagant ornaments in the palace. Look there, quick! In compliance with the voice, everyone's eyes turned toward the direct front of the palace. A lofty throne was placed there, and on it sat an apparently middle-aged man who was draped in a blood-red cloak and had blood-red hair. His hands were clasped as he quietly sat upright on the throne with his eyes closed. He did not emit a trace of aura. In front of this middle-aged man with red hair stood four people who looked like sculptures. They were suited in purple-golden armor and their hands firmly gripped huge sabers. However, their eyes were also closed. Puppet fighters! When the experts from both camps saw the man and the four sculptures in purple-golden armor, they immediately knew that these were puppet fighters. By all probability, these were extremely powerful puppet fighters to boot. At the very least, they would be more powerful than the gold-armored puppets the lords had encountered in the inner layer. And it must be noted that the gold-armored puppets were already able to rival advanced lords. Look at what's on their hands! A lord suddenly exclaimed. Everyone immediately looked at the palms of the puppet fighters. What they saw caused their pupils to constrict at once. A ring was worn on the left index finger of each of the four armored puppet fighters. Emitting a special energy wave, they were clearly interspatial rings. Yes, every one of the four puppet fighters was wearing an interspatial ring. Similarly, the middle-aged man with red hair wore an interspatial ring on his left index finger. Interspatial rings! The eyes of the lords from both camps began to scorch. Although the entire palace was extravagantly decorated, there were no treasures or opportunities within it except for these interspatial rings being worn by the puppet fighters. It was thus conceivable that the real treasure within the palace lied in those rings. As soon as this idea came to mind, the lords from both camps hurriedly moved nearer to the puppet fighters. However, before the lords could reach them, the eyes of the four puppet fighters simultaneously opened. Frosty and completely emotionless, they looked over at the lords. Intruders! Kill! The four puppet fighters simultaneously began to move after one of them uttered these words in a chilly voice. For beams of purple-golden flowing light pierced through the void, while at the same time, for powerful auras began to spread. These 4 auras were each no weaker than that of a superior lord. As expected, the experts from both camps felt a sense of marvel but did not feel surprised when they saw the auras emitting from the puppet fighters. After all, the gold-armored puppets which they encountered in the inner layer were already comparable to advanced lords. It was obvious to them that these 4 golden-purple puppets would be even stronger than that, being situated in the palace which was clearly the core of the cave mansion no less. These 4 puppet fighters were on a par with superior lords. However, none of the lords imagined that the 4 puppet fighters would wave their hands as they moved. Swish! 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 Beams of golden flowing light shot out from their interspatial rings. Soon, gold-armored puppets filled the palace. Gold-armored puppets? The countenances of the lords changed. Reasonably speaking, the threat of gold-armored puppets was not as great as that of gold-and-purple puppets. However, an endless stream of gold-armored puppets emerged from the interspatial rings, such that, in the blink of an eye, more than 50 of them appeared. This, including the 2 most powerful lords, Black Yuan Lord and Demon Soul Lord. The faces of every lord from both camps sank. To these 2 camps, there was nothing frightening about facing 4 golden-purple puppets, much as they had the battle strength of 4 superior lords. But now, with the addition of more than 50 gold-armored puppets, the lords would have to face the equivalent of more than 50 advanced lords. A lineup of 4 superior lords and more than 50 advanced lords was comfortably superior to the combined strength of the 2 camps. So many! Jian Wushuang's pupils constricted as well. He was increasingly feeling the terror of the cave mansion's owner. Next, he conceived a thought which caused a vast blood river to sweep forth immediately. A combination of his 3 realms suppressed forth. Under the suppression of the realms, the speed of the gold-armored puppets was obviously reduced by a notch, while the 4 golden-purple puppets were similarly affected. These realms are not bad indeed. Black Yuan Lord glanced at Jian Wushuang and at the same time ordered, Loftiness Lord and Iron Saber Lord, make sure you protect this fella. Yes. Loftiness Lord and Iron Saber Lord nodded and immediately appeared beside Jian Wushuang. The 2 of them understood the importance of Jian Wushuang to Marquis Piaoshua's camp. Everyone else, follow me to kill. Our camp must obtain at least 3 of the 4 interspatial rings. Black Yuan Lord's expression was frigid. Let's get moving.